Ukraine will never be a victory for Russia, for free people refuse to live in a world of hopelessness and darkness. We will have a different future, a brighter future, rooted in democracy and principles, hope and light, of decency and dignity, of freedom and possibilities. For God's sake, this man cannot remain in power.
Well, shortly after that speech and that comment, a White House official said that President Biden was not calling for Putin to be removed from office, regime change. Well, joining us now is retired Brigadier General Tony Tata, also former Undersecretary of Defense for Policy under President Trump. His latest book is called Chasing the Lion. And we're also joined by former Trump Deputy National Security Advisor KT McFarland, and her latest book is called Revolution. Trump, Washington, and We the People. Thank you both for joining us. KT, I'll start with you. And what do you make of what President Biden had to say there?
This has got to be one of the biggest strategic mistakes a president has made in my modern memory. Yeah. What has he done? He has basically told Vladimir Putin, don't negotiate. There is no reason now for Vladimir Putin to negotiate some kind of a negotiated solution where everybody gets a little bit of what they want, but nobody gets everything. Right now, Vladimir Putin thinks that the only way he can prevail is to go for broke, because basically President Biden has called for his removal, one way or another, his removal from power. And there's no way that Putin is going to tolerate that. Yeah. So it's a huge mistake, because they were close. I think they were pretty close to coming to a negotiated solution. The president of Ukraine has said, well, NATO membership is off the table. And he's also hinted and indicated maybe he would have negotiations over the eastern provinces. The Russians 2 days ago said their first phase of their offensive is over, and they're concentrating on those eastern provinces. There was a potential deal there, and President Biden just blew it up.
Yeah, and everyone in Russia, they'll just hear that comment. They won't hear the White House walking it back.
Yeah, no, it's again, every time he's not well handled, you get something like this, and we see it time and time again. Every time he's away from his staff and he says something off the cuff, it's like, look out, what's he going to say now? General Tata, the State Department has declared Russia is committing war crimes by targeting civilian infrastructure. Obviously, we know they're committing war crimes. It's very evident in places like Mariupol, where apartment buildings, a maternity hospital, theater with kids hiding in the basement were bombed. Russian General Mikhail Mitsintsev, I believe is how it's said, has been identified as the so-called butcher of Mariupol. This is not the first time that he has used total annihilation tactics, as they call it. The general also destroyed Aleppo in Syria 6 years ago. Is this part of the Russian game plan when things get really tough, when they're really frustrated? I mean, I think it seems that Mariupol is where this military and where Vladimir Putin is taking out a lot of its frustration about how it's going in Ukraine by just this barbaric behavior.
Yeah, no, I think that's exactly right, Rob. And just to add on to KT's very wise comments, Biden said to the 82nd Airborne, and I was a battalion commander in the 82nd. They're great paratroopers. And when you are in Ukraine, you'll see. And so to add to the strategic gaffe that he makes by saying that Biden or Putin needs to go, he's telling Putin that the 82nd Airborne, our elite paratroopers, are going in, and so it's like a double whammy there, and so when you see these kinds of tactics in Mariupol and Odessa and elsewhere, it is a sign of increased desperation. These generals are being told by Putin to absolutely make progress. You've got to make progress. They're torquing it down. You've got the 3,000-mile screwdriver, in the back of these generals trying to make progress. So they are unleashing the hounds of hell on the Ukrainian people. And thankfully, the Ukrainians are fighting back from interior lines of communication. That I'm just stunned that this administration, it is gaffe after gaffe after gaffe. Remember, their very first offer, their very first policy position on the Ukraine war was to remove Zelensky from power by offering him a way out of Ukraine. The official policy position was to help Putin by decapitating the Ukrainian government.
Think imagine how different this all looks if Zelensky would have just fled the nation. What happens to the morale of the military and the people? This entire thing could have looked dramatically different. General Tata and KT McFarland, thank you both so much. Good to see you both.